Hello.
Hello, Forrest. How are you, my friend?
I am so happy to be joined by your smiley little face, boy. It's felt like it's been weeks.
It's been too long.
What have you been up to, mate?
Honestly, mate. What haven't I been doing? Honestly, so I've just finished doing a show. I'm feeling happy and sad about it. And if you're in the cast, now I know people that are listening are in the cast. They'll understand that reference. So that's a little nod to you. But yes, I've had a great time. I had a wonderful time, actually. It's been brilliant being in the show. And now I'm doing another show, as you know. And yeah, I'm fine. I'm teetering on the edge, but I'm used to it.
Yeah, man. It's been a busy old period. Which is why no podcast last week, but we're back.
We're back.
So back. And to be honest, you wouldn't have wanted one last week because Matt had a moustache, and Jesus Christ, that thing on your face was. I think we've had podcasts before where you've had a moustache for a different reason. I'm sure we've had this conversation before, but it was something else.
It wasn't that bad, was it?
But I mean, there's death, there's losing a limb, and then there's Matt's moustache. I think.
I mean, so it was like a quite a thick 1970s. I think one of our dear listeners that listens to the podcast called it the porn star moustache.
Ooh.
Right? You know who you are. But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. It was one hell of a something. And to be honest, I'm saying this, when I look like I do right now, which is unkempt and homeless.
But you rock that. You rock that vibe, mate. It looks great.
I don't know if you can rock homeless, but yeah. I'm trying my hard. Your camera, by the way, is so far behind. I don't know if you can see how far you are lagging. Your audio's working, but
here we go. I think I'm back. Am I back? No, I'm not back. Let me turn my camera off, and then I'll put it back on again. But carry on.
This is forever. The issue is Matt's Wi-Fi is like a slug speed.
It's horrendous.
I had better internet in the 90s than what dial up was better than what Matt's going through right now.
Honestly,
do you remember all those noises? Every time we wanted to go on. Oh, it's classic, mate. Absolutely love dial up.
It was awful. Back in the day.
Watching, could you send me a photo? Yeah, no problem at all. Just give me 10 minutes. Oh, there it is. Oh, that looks. What a photo that is.
I think it's because I live on a coastline as well.
Yeah.
Like, Wi-Fi is traditionally really bad on the coast, and I think I'm going to blame where I live as well.
Yeah. 100%. It's a coastal issue.
This is going to be great for reels.
It is going to be god awful. I'll be laughing, and in 10 minutes you'll laugh back, and it'll look amazing. But,
well, isn't it lovely that this is an audio platform that we are currently streaming on?
It is, and honestly, listeners, we have had an amazing time. Instagram has been popping, TikTok's been popping. We got some new followers, some new listeners.
Mate, we've got 1,500 followers.
1,500 followers. It's amazing. And we thank everyone who's followed, who's listened, who's remarked, who's whatever you've done out there. Thank you so much. Yeah. And here's to more fun and frolics.
And also,
we are going to get up to.
We've got some serious announcements to make. This will come at a later date, but me and Forrest are about to drop 2 bits of really exciting news, which is mind-bogglingly great. I can't even fathom and articulate how excited I am for these 2 things that are happening in the near future for us.
It's outrageous. Well, one of them we found out as soon as we woke up on a Saturday, and I cannot express the sheer excitement that popped up on the WhatsApp.
I mean, it's amazing. Yeah.
We're very excited. Those announcements will come in their own time, in a very special way. But until then, we have got some wildcard films on the way.
Yes, it's wildcard time, bro! Woo!
Wildcard season.
It's been ages. It's been so long. No, mate, I'm alone tonight. Honestly, it could. I love my wife. I love my children, and I know you're listening, and I love you all so much. But it's also really nice to come home and just chill the f out, and that's nice. I very much need it today. So yeah. Appreciated, but mate, I can talk as loud as I need to in my own kitchen for the podcast.
It's quite funny because you and me are opposite levels today, because not ordinarily wouldn't matter with me. However, we've got the painters in, and that is not an innuendo. That is genuine. We've got Martin, the lovely painter. Big shout out to you, Martin. Who is he's just been painting the front of our house, the windowsills and door, and he's painted a door, and we've got to keep the door slightly open until 9 o'clock tonight.
Oh, just to let the air out.
Yeah, and it is a weird vibe sitting in your living room with your front door open, because our living room has the front door in it, and it is a very peculiar vibe.
That is weird.
You sat there watching Orange is the New Black, having your binge fest, worried about the type of scene that's going to come up, because Dora outside is going to be judging massively.
Mate, I'll tell you what I've been watching. It's on Apple TV, called The Great. The Great.
Sophie absolutely loves The Great. Is that the one with Nicholas Hoult, is it?
Yeah, so me and Rachel are in season 2 at the moment. It's so good. But it is a bit of that, bit of like you want to watch that with the door shut, with the curtains drawn, closed.
Nicholas is chin wagging for a couple of minutes. Next
thing,
he's got
that man
gobbling about.
Does not age. He doesn't age.
He looks the same as he did in Skins, like about 15 years ago.
Yeah,
outrageous,
absolutely outrageous. Okay, right.
Have you Apple TV? Just whilst we're talking about Apple TV, quickly, have you watched a program called Slow Horses?
No, not yet. I'm quite new to Apple TV at the moment.
Gary Oldham, Slow Horses is absolutely class TV.
Really?
If you've watched Slow Horses or The Great, drop us a message. What are your thoughts? Amazing TV.
Okay, I'm going to get on that.
Oh my god, but what is the first wild card? It got submitted by Danny 2 weeks ago.
It did.
From Unqualified Heroes, joined us for an incredible podcast.
Can I just say, Danny was a glorious co-host, a guest. Brilliant.
It was amazing. It was honest to God. Every guest we've had so far, it's just been thoroughly enjoyable. Lee's got a special place in our hearts.
Always.
Australia, America, I don't know where else we've been, but it is an absolute joy.
It's an absolute joy. He was absolutely fantastic. It was a great episode, so dear listener, if you haven't watched it, listen to it. Go listen to it. It's a good one. But yes, he did suggest a movie, and a particular movie that came out, he suggested at an apt time when Oppenheimer only just was released, which is a Christopher Nolan movie. So we are going to talk about and deep dive into the galactic stratosphere that is Interstellar.
Boosh! There we go.
Oh,
Here we are in Interstellar. So I had never watched Interstellar before.
That's incredible.
And you had watched it before?
This is the second time I've watched it. Yes, the second time.
I feel like I could do with the second time. I feel like this is a bulky feast, as Nolan films tend to be. But this is, lots of reasons why I would absolutely love to watch this again already. But where do we begin, man?
Well, mate, this is a movie. This is something called a movie that we're not, it's out of
it's called a movie. That is what it is, yeah. That's the best summary you've ever made there. This is something called a movie. Yeah, that's it.
I'll be honest to you, right? You know how tired I am. Dear listener, you do not know how tired I am, but Forrest does. He has seen me on a regular basis for the past week on how fatigued I look. Now, I mean, this delayed video that we're in right now, but you can see I've got a clean shave and I'm looking fairly fresh, I like to admit, but underneath it all, it's a mirage.
Have you seen the meme? Did you watch In Betweeners film where Neil goes a wobba bob bob? Like he's hungover and he's in the car and he goes a wobba bob bob, and Jay sat next to him and he goes, "What did you say?" And he's like, I can't remember what he says back. He's like, "Oh, how are you?" And he goes, "No, you didn't say that. You said a wobba bob bob." That's what Matt's been like for the last week. He comes, it's just words coming out of a very tired face. So enjoy yourselves. Anyway, you talk Interstellar as a movie. That's what
it's a movie, but it's because what I was trying to say is that we've been doing TV series and we haven't been able to do tomato meters. This is something we can very much go to a tomato meter and read a lovely little review, summary. Jesus Christ. It's going to be like this, guys. It's going to be like this. I thought to myself, try and at least articulate yourself. I know we're tired, body and face, but let's, for the podcast, be articulate. And it's already failed. So, great.
Well, let me chill you out for a while whilst I entertain the crowd with our usual synopsis, which it has been a long time. This,
it has,
so
okay,
here we go.
Go.
In Earth's future, a global crop blight and second dust bowl are slowly rendering the planet uninhabitable. Professor Brand, a brilliant NASA physicist, is working on plans to save mankind by transporting Earth's population to a new home via a wormhole. But first, Brand must send former NASA pilot Cooper and a team of researchers through the wormhole and across the galaxy to find out which of 3 planets could be mankind's new home.
We needed Dr. Brian Cox to read that out, mate.
We did. That was overfilled. That was like when you get a burrito and you're like, fuck it, I can't even hold this thing.
Yeah.
It is too much in that.
It's got some weight to it.
You've told me a lot there. Far too much.
Maybe that's a little bit of what the film's about. There's a lot. So let's go straight into it. Initial thoughts and overview on the old Interstellar. Now, for me, on the second viewing, it did help watching it because the first time I watched it, I want to say was 2016 because I remember it was at 1 o'clock in the morning. Haley was days old, and I remember just lying on the sofa going, "I want to watch a movie. I know I'm going to be staying awake for the next 3 hours. Let's watch Christopher Nolan's Interstellar." And it honestly freaked me out. My brain melted. But the second time watching it, some things made more sense. But it is an action-packed cinematic experience. I found myself at times being confused with plot, but also being wowed and also emotionally moved by performances and bits of narrative. So it was such an up and down experience that kind of left me at the end really enjoying it. I think I watched it in 2 halves, which probably helped. I don't know if you did the same, but yeah, overall I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I watched it in 2 parts. I think I agree. I found with this one that it really kind of peaked and troughed in terms of some like parts of it were brilliant, and then parts of it felt like they went on for quite a while.
Yeah.
And then other parts felt just a bit like what? And I don't know. Christopher Nolan naturally likes a longer film, and that's fine. You know, it's all right. Longer film can be fine.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer, fantastic. Then great. Like I can appreciate how long that is. It's fine. This, I felt that actually this had a lot of baggage that didn't need to be there. I feel like a lot of the conversations on their way to the planets didn't need to be as long as they and stretched out as they were. I thought the end was incredibly overstretched. Like it's kind of just get me to the bit that I need to see. That felt incredibly long.
So it's 2 hours and 49 minutes. So even by Christopher Nolan standard, that's one of the shorter ones.
I know. But it doesn't feel like a short one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there is so, and the other thing is it goes into it immediately. Do you know what I mean? The plot just goes straight in. We're talking about quantum physics. We're talking about outer worldly things. We're talking about an Earth in this movie where it's being met by many storms. We're responding to what is effectively a climate crisis, and I think we're in the future. We've got to be in the future. I don't know if there even is a year defined in Interstellar.
No.
What year is Interstellar set? Look, that's already Google done that for me. So it's set in 2067.
2067. Okay.
So, according to Wikipedia, it says, in 2067, as humanity is facing extinction following a global famine caused by ecocide, it has since abandoned scientific pursuits such as a space exploration. As a result, ex-NASA pilot Joseph Cooper is now forced to work as a farmer. Cooper experiences a gravitational anomaly in his daughter's Murph's bedroom. So, it's 2067.
To which, it does lend itself to that. Bearing in mind, we have some of these kind of ex-military security robots, a lot of robots going on about the place, which I don't know about you, Matt, but I don't feel like it went as into them as I wanted them to be.
You mean in terms of the robots?
Part, yeah, it wasn't like they were kind of secondary, and I was like, I want to know a little bit more about that. Like, how are they created? What what is their place? A little bit more. I thought
I found the designs of Tars and Case quite weird. I know it's trying
Tars was very strange.
Like that kind of like rectangle, and it just sort of moves on the side with its legs that just then rotates. Like it's like whoever thought of that, you're like, that's not like how you would design a robot, right? Like,
I mean, yeah, clunky. It's not conventional, right?
It's not conventional.
I want something that walks towards me like it's fucking like fucked.
not like an upright table. Like
yeah. It's like how awkwardly could I make the thing that I want to move? And there's Tars. I love it. There he is. That's it. Yeah, the most, and it also reminds me. Have you seen the Black Mirror episode? They look like the little robot dogs in the Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, they do.
And I'm sure people are going to be screaming listening to this, telling me the name of that episode. It's a brilliant episode. But yeah, it looks quite like that. Yeah, unusual beginning. Straight into it. Highly ambiguous to begin with. So it's kind of like it's up to you to kind of go, right, okay, this is where we are, this is what's happening. Visually, it's quite interesting. I think visually this film is a little bit ahead of its time, and by that I mean it looks impressive, but it could have done with waiting a few years to look more impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. It felt like if this came out now, we would be able to at least digest it probably a little bit better. I just get a feel like I get a sense that maybe if this was a movie that came out post Oppenheimer, it would have been received maybe slightly better as well. I mean, not to say it wasn't received well in 2014, but like it just feels like this is one of those Christopher Nolan movies that isn't spoken about that much. I mean, it's spoken more about than Tenet, let's be honest. But like, I think there's some, going back to my initial views, that I think performance-wise, there's some bloody incredible performances. Matthew McConaughey is incredible in this performance, but like, I think in terms of like the subject matter, I think it's way more current now than it was on the forefront of our minds back in 2014.
100%. 100%. Yeah, and I think, I agree. The themes are far more relevant like now, or far more spoke about, not necessarily relevant. And it's just, so for instance, in particular, when they're on the ship, a ship, is that a good rocket thing, whatever it's called? And those scenes just look like a studio. It's a bit like how Titanic has not aged well. If you go and watch Titanic and you go and see the night sky in the background, you can absolutely see that was a studio.
Yeah.
HD has made that look terrible. Yeah. You look at it and it's the same with it. Those scenes do not look like I am in space. In any essence, the actual views of space are really impressive, and at the end, there's some really impressive scenes there. But on the whole, I think actually, if Nolan had waited a few years, that would have looked amazing.
That would have been great. I mean, so going back to Tars, so again, Christopher Nolan is a brilliant director in the sense that he really refrains from using CGI. And of which he holds quite dearly with Oppenheimer, that there's no CGI in Oppenheimer. And dear listener, I'm sure you've probably wanted to watch it now. I mean, crikey. I mean, what an incredible visual spectacle that is, the movie. But with this, it's kind of similar. So Tars, for instance, is... we're literally holding the rods of the movable arms that kind of rotate on like three kind of poles effectively, and they're using that for emoting, and also that was voiced as well on set. Again, that's really cool. I think that's quite nostalgic in terms of sci-fi movies as well as a whole. That's how they did it practically back then. That's something Christopher Nolan really holds dear to as well. That's something, as cinema goers, I respect and enjoy. But I think ultimately, the ergonomic shape of this robot didn't make sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I suppose you can argue that actually that it makes sense for planet exploration. So in terms of rock formation and moving across planets, it does kind of make sense. But certainly when it's on Earth, you're like, what the hell is this, man? Yeah. So what about in terms of the plot? What did you think about the actual plot itself?
I think it goes without saying, with any plot like this, you need to watch it a few times to really grasp what's happening. Because we're talking about time travel, we're talking about dimensional time travel as well. We're talking about black holes. We're talking about quantum physics. There's lots of scientific thing for a general audience would find a little bit difficult to grasp. Now, for me particularly, I'm not that type of person. I'm interested in time travel. I'm a massive fan of it, but I'm not like that. I don't know that kind of stuff at all. So, from a cinema perspective, I think I needed a little bit more explanation. I needed more exposition. I needed more time on the time travel aspect. I think it was rushed. I kind of feel like that first quarter of the movie maybe had more exposition than it needed. or had in the actual final cut.
Yeah.
I think it just moved so quickly into Matthew McConaughey's character. I'm a farmer. I'm a retired spaceman, rocket man for NASA, and then boom, the next thing you know, he somehow finds the secret base for NASA. And then is immediately then skyrocketed it into space. Like, it's not even a second thought. Like, he doesn't even contemplate it. He just does it.
Absolutely. That was my first gripe, was why the fuck would he do this in the first place?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. There is no reason why it would matter so much to him that you would risk his life, his Earth's like everything about it was so weirdly, like I say, out of the blue, and the fact that he had these coordinates and just ran with it, and then ended up in the base, and then suddenly he's met by Professor Brand, and then that's it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck is it? Boom, boom. Like, you are suspending your disbelief and jumping from crazy moment to crazy moment far too often within a 20-minute part of this film.
And I know his decision to go to space was an integral part of the plot line, because it gets then revealed later on in terms of his choices and stuff, and he sees himself through his next dimension of time travel and stuff. But like, oh gosh, I think it just there should have just been a little bit more contemplation on that from his character's part, and Murph as well being involved in that. They did have a little scene in the bedroom scene which was like, don't leave, why do you have to go? But he's like, I've got to go and do it. But there wasn't enough justification. Maybe it should have come from the global aspect, the climate change, the fact that we need to respond to this thing now. We need you for the sake of humanity. And I know that was said in certain lines, but maybe we should have seen that on a more global situation.
I also think that what they didn't do is give Tom, the son, a role in any of that. So
yeah, which is Timothy Chalamet, man. That's a young Timothy Chalamet.
Mental. That is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't get Tom scene with the dad as such, and also I feel like if Tom being the older sibling, maybe if you had a scene between Tom and Cooper where Tom made Cooper, the dad, realise, like, look, that you are doing this for the bigger picture. I almost think Tom and Mirth should have been kind of polar opposites, really. You should have had Tom going, go on, dad, like, you've got to do this, dad, think of the future, think of, their kids, so your grandkids, all of that stuff.
It's like
Tom just never had that.
Like, Tom's character literally was, oh, I don't know what I want to do when I'm finished school. Oh, are you going to college? No, I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to be a farmer like my dad. Oh, okay, cool, great. Off you go then. And that's it. And then obviously that becomes, is it Casey Affleck that then dons the older Tom later on in the movie, and then just sort of takes over from dad and stuff. But like,
yeah,
it just, I think you're right. There just wasn't enough in terms of his character coming through. There should have been an opposing voice. There should have been this kind of do and don't go, And
part of that, we get this weird moment where we see Cooper and the education system, basically, and like the educational, like, rubbishing. They rubbish the idea that people have been to the moon and all of this stuff, and it's an odd scene, because up to that point and almost after it, we don't really. We see NASA's thoughts and we see Cooper's family's thoughts, but we don't really get a wider societal, thought process. So then when we suddenly get a shoehorn scene of the educational system, it's a bit weird, because everything is so isolated. Like this farm is isolated. This whole, we really rural. We don't go, it doesn't go into a city. We don't see. So to suddenly get the educational system being represented, I find really jarring at this point, because I'm like, it's kind of, why just that scene then? Why are we not seeing more people's perspectives on this?
Like different families and stuff, yeah.
Different families, and like, why, where's like the background TV like in an MCU film we would have had a TV in the background with like thoughts on climate, or some kind of idea of what else was going on at the time.
It's like with these types of movies, you'd always have some sort of like political figure, wouldn't you? That's being like, oh no, we gotta go do this because we've got to save the planet, or like, there's some sort of like weird antagonistic, maybe villainesque vibes from a politician that's driving an agenda, and there wasn't any of that. It was just really focusing on one story, one narrative, one guy, and his journey. It just there wasn't enough of that, and again, Michael Caine coming into it was all fine, but even the fleshing out of his character, and even when it came to his death part and revealing, like, we didn't actually, we didn't know how this was going to end up, and there was no assurances made, and there was some falsehoods said as well previously to agreeing to take the mission. Like, even at that point, there wasn't enough in between before Josh went into space to him, to Michael Caine's character then dying. It was a bit strange. There wasn't enough.
No, and I feel you mentioned about political figure. They had a great opportunity there where that could have been tied into Matt Damon's character. So Dr. Mann, isn't it? And Dr. Mann, like, basically, kind of fucks up the whole plan for the bigger picture. Knows that Plan A was never going to be the case, so they were only ever going to create new civilization between them as a unit and no one else. Right now, that was a perfect opportunity to bring your politics in, where he could have been, I don't know, manipulated by a politician, so his science is conflicted by political motivations, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Or a bigger picture, a bit something else could have been in there, but no, they just kept it. Oh no, we're also supposed to just believe that Matt Damon's a bit of a prick. Dr. Mann's a bit of a prick, and that, well, not Matt Damon, but Dr. Mann. I'm sure he's a lovely guy, Matt Damon. But Dr. Mann is it's a bit of a prick.
I think do you know what really confused me about Matt Damon's inclusion in this movie is that not a year later he then leads in another space movie called The Martian, which is extremely similar. And I get really confused. And there was one point I remember watching the first time going, hang on, is this like a continuation to Interstellar? Is he the same character? Like, no, he's not. Like, it's a really weird choice by him in terms of agreeing to do that and then knowing that he's going to be leading in in The Martian, which is about, a man going to Mars and trying to find some living habitation in Mars. It's weird. Yeah. I think it's a weird choice. I enjoyed his character, though. I enjoyed the swerve that he gave in Interstellar, when he came back from the long sleep. And as well, the idea of the long sleep, I really enjoyed. I think in terms of that, I mean, obviously, dear listener, we know nothing about, what NASA's up to, and what time travel with rockets and space and planets and that kind of stuff is. But, like, I wonder whether that's a genuine thing. Like, are we planning for that type of thing? And that was the thing that I really enjoyed about this movie. It actually got me thinking retrospectively about where we are right now, in the year 2023, and we're not too far away from this kind of exploration. It already broke in news, didn't it? Like, look, last week about America talking about saying they found aliens and disclosing about UFOs and stuff, and all of this thing is now supposedly coming out of the woodwork. But like, we're not too far away from this type of thing, and I really got to think about. Like, I was like, crikey, am I going to see in my lifetime something like this happen, where we do incubate ourselves for a certain amount of time while going through time travel to then wake up and then find ourselves on another planet or, you know, somewhere else. It really, I mean, that literally already makes my brain hurt a little bit, but I really enjoyed the concept of that.
Yeah. As long as we get drafted to the same planet, mate, that's all that matters to me. But,
just so we can carry on with the podcast.
Yeah. Well, you know, maybe we'll be able to do it intergalactically.
Oh my gosh!
Matt will be in Pluto, and I'll be chilling in Mars. You know.
It's a lovely time.
I'll be like, fucking hell, the internet's better in Pluto than it was in Brightlingsea. There you go. My other gripe in terms of the story is the books. So the scene with the books, which then comes back at the end, where, spoiler, we find out that Cooper is talking to it's Murph, isn't it? It's not Murphy. It's Murph. That is based on Murphy, isn't it?
Murph.
So Murph, he's actually talking to Murph via Morse. It's Morse code, isn't it? And by the end, he uses Morse code. Now, I don't know about you, but as soon as the book thing happened at the beginning of the film, it was so easy to make that leap already. Anyway, I was, but it made such a big thing of it that I was like, well, okay, well, and the minute you know Cooper's on his way. Like, you know, he's involved in NASA, the plan. You're like, right, well, that's him then. Like, the ending that kind of lost its because they made such a big thing of the books, and Murph was in the room.
Maybe they did go a little bit too far there in terms of not keeping it as subtle. I totally agree. It wasn't a twist at all. It was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. So he is the ghost. Of course, it is. That felt like it was going to happen in that way. I think when I watched it the first time, the cogs turned with that when they went to that planet where time is like if you're there for 1 hour, up there you lose 20 years.
Oh yeah.
The moment they started playing around with time, I was like, okay. I was like, if this is an older version of Cooper that's communicating to Murph in the past. That's what I originally thought.
Yeah. I would have really wished he found his way to wherever that was in a more conventional means. The fact that we're supposed to believe that he went out of the ship, he survived floating in space for a certain amount of time before then getting sucked into this area. I was a bit like, yeah, really? I'm like, I would have much preferred it if the ship got caught on one of the wormholes or on the wormhole, whatever, and then they all went there. And then Cooper was like, oh, do you know what? Fuck it, I'm going to try leaving the ship and see what happens. And then that's what happens. Right, that for me would have felt more believable. It's all properly stretched, right? But that would have felt more believable than man leaves a ship, floats for miles, and then ends up in this, right? You know, out of all places, not hit by debris, not end up in another planet. He ends up in this different. Yeah,
but also these moments feel like it happens incidentally, doesn't it? It's like everything is a bit incidental.
Yeah,
and it with very, very little justification. So when he he falls into this black hole, then he's floating in space. The next thing you know, he's in a different dimension, literally a different dimension. And you're like, okay. And we as an audience just have to kind of go, okay, cool, fine, all right. Well, what else? And I think. And this goes back to my previous point about just telling us a little bit more about it. It is obviously really, I'm not saying it's easy. It's very difficult to explain these types of things in movies. But maybe in some way, I don't know. Like, in Back to the Future, where Doc Brown just very clearly gets out a blackboard and goes, "This is our timeline." Whoosh, one line. "This is a skew of our timeline." Whoosh. That's the plot. And you and the audience go, "Okay, cool, great, all right."
Yeah.
Like, we needed something like that, maybe.
And I feel like we could have done that through Michael Caine's character, because you could have had Professor Brand could have been like that to Cooper at the beginning, because Cooper's been out of it for a while. He could have almost took the piss and gone, "Look, I'm going to spell this out to you. This is A equals B. This is this is what we're doing." And then at least for an audience, we could have been like, "Oh yeah, fancy a bit of that." But yeah, good things. I really enjoy the very last bit where they all they have moved planet, but even that is slightly. I'm not entirely sure what happened.
I would have liked to have seen the evacuation of the planet into this thing. I know the reveal was like, yeah, no, we've got, this is Cooper Station. This is your legacy. I liked that, to be honest, but like, it would have been nice to have seen back in Planet Earth, when we had older Tom as Farmer Tom and older Murph, doing all that digging about Dad and stuff. But like, it would have been nice to have seen at that point, maybe simultaneously, a global evacuation of some sort. Like, an impending doom was coming. It might have been a little bit too Independence Day, if that's probably why they didn't do it. But it would have been nice to have seen how that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would have been cool. I think that would have been really cool. I also think they could have done that by splintering it across the entire film. So like you almost, so in the way that he did it in Oppenheimer, where you have the black and white scenes and you have the colour scenes, and I would have really liked that kind of thing in this, where it would have just given it a bit of life in some of the places where it dipped quite considerably in energy. Whereas if it would have, like, you are seeing bits and pieces of the evacuation of Earth, but you're not really sure who's leaving, like how that's happened, who's leaving. You're just getting a disjointed view, and then at the end it all comes together on Cooper Station, whatever it's called. Sorry, no, you go on.
It just felt like, I feel like we're being really critical in terms of like plot points and stuff. I'm not to say that there weren't good moments for plot. I think what I really enjoyed, and this is, I think, was the emotional hook for me in this story, was the connection he had with his daughter, so with Murph, and the fact that they had the playback with the video messages, and that was quite clearly the main hook, the main thread, in terms of them sending monthly updates. Every 6 months, every year. You saw Tom getting older, Tom then deciding, actually, I think this might be it, I need to let go. Murph never sending a message until like 20 years later. And then that becomes a more of a driving force for Cooper, in terms of his character. I think the human aspect of love and relationships and what makes us human, and uniquely human as well, from anything else out in the whole universe. Right now, all we know is that we have these connections as human beings and loves for human being in terms of relationships and particularly from a father and daughter perspective. I think that was told beautifully. And I found myself getting emotional at times, being a father myself, like putting yourself into like, God, could you imagine like losing that amount of time with your daughter, and then seeing them on a TV screen 20 years later, and then they're fully grown out. And the way, I know, I know we have taken that moment with Matthew McConaughey, which is a very well-known now meme of him breaking down in tears watching Murph's messages, and it became one of our now, I think, highest viewed reels, where we have the Endgame ending with him tagged onto it. But that delivery and acting and characterization with Matthew McConaughey as Cooper there, and seeing that emotional connection and breakdown was just it's beautiful, and I think that's what Christopher Nolan is great at, is that human aspect, and I think he kind of held on to that dearly and executed it brilliantly in the movie from what was a really big confusing concept, you know. Yeah.
And so you brought the actors up. So there are some acting chumps in this.
There is.
And so who would you say? Give me a primary and a secondary highlights character, please, Matt.
I mean, Matthew McConaughey as Cooper in here was astounding. Like brilliant. I can't fight. I would watch it again just focusing on Matthew McConaughey. I mean, and this is at a point in 2014. He's coming out of what I would say a similar, Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man kind of like phase where, people kind of parodied him a little bit in terms of him being just this one tone kind of actor, and he gave a delivery for the ages. I thought secondary there's two. I think Jessica Chastain was incredible as older Mirth. But also Anne Hathaway gave a brilliant performance, and I think it's definitely one of our best performances I've seen her do in anything. And I've seen her do Les Mis. We've all seen that, right? Have you seen it? I mean, that's good, but like,
thank you.
This.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, that was beautiful though. By the way.
Oh, thank you.
But like, I think this is her one of her top performances from my perspective in anything that I've seen Anna Hathaway do.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think Jessica Chastain, primary or secondary character. That's the argument there. Really,
I would,
really.
Yeah, I would say Anne Hathaway is a secondary character.
Anne Hathaway. Sorry, I meant Jessica Chastain. Mirth. I think that's a primary, really.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I think Jessica Chastain, I think does brilliant. Matthew McConaughey, Cooper's brilliant. But secondary shout out who I wish we saw more of was Donald. So John Lithgow as Donald. I really like those scenes, and I know, obviously couldn't be back at the end of the film, but I would have liked more of him and Tom. I would have liked more of at the beginning of the film. I think the emphasis had to be on Mirth, but actually, I think they needed to change. Donald and Tom the writing should have differed slightly, so that them two were the driving force for Cooper to do what Cooper did. I think that would have been brilliant, to have that. It just would have given it more like weight and more reason as to why he chose to do what he did.
There's this really cool moment with Michael Caine and John Lithgow with them when he comes out with the video message from Cooper, and it's such a short bit of dialogue, but you kind of just like watch it and you go, oh my god, those are two living legends of film acting in front of each other. Probably would have been nice to see a little bit more dialogue from them and a little bit more from their perspective, maybe, in terms of two elders talking about two different, one from humble beginnings, one's a farmer, and one's a massive, scientist and well-renowned scientist. Yeah. Might have been quite good to see how that kind of worked, but like, again, I agree, no time for that kind of stuff with this type of movie. The other one I want to mention is Matt Damon's performance. Now, what do you think about his performance? Because if I tell you my thoughts first, I enjoyed it. I think his inclusion was warranted, and I think in terms of that character's dynamic, absolutely warranted. I just felt like the motives went from 1 to 10 way too quickly.
Yeah. Motives And what he did, is that what you mean? Like,
Yeah,
what his
like,
actual
literally.
actions as well. Yeah. So,
When he punted like Cooper down, it was just like what? It was like watching wrestling. It's like when you watch a heel turn in wrestling. You've got a baby face who's like, oh, a really good guy, everyone loves him, and then he's just out of nowhere, just like sucker punches and like under the legs of somebody else. You're like, what? That's a massive like swerve. It just wasn't warranted. I didn't understand the context.
It was. He's been on this planet for fucking years. That's not the first thing that guy would be doing, by any stretch. Yeah, I found that to be very. And this is the issue. This film needed an enemy, right? It needed. It just where light and shade need. So it had to have that kind of a character, but he was the wrong character to be that character. Do you know what I mean? It needed to, it was the wrong. It just didn't work that he would be woken up after however long it was to then be ultra aggressive and not change his views or ideas at all.
And also, when he woke up and he immediately cried in front of everybody, and like that he was consoled and hugged and comforted, like, and then it becomes an arsehole immediately. Like, wait, what?
I've just remembered I've got to be a prick. So could we just stop the emotion and let me batter this man to his potential death? That's how I'd like to see this end. I think what is your overall summary, Matt? I think we got to that stage. We talked acting, visually, I think it's brilliant. Plot, got some edges there. But what are your overall thoughts?
I really enjoyed it. I would happily watch it again, but maybe not so much in the near future. I really enjoyed the cinematography of it. I really thoroughly enjoyed the performances on the most part, if not, I would say 90% of their performances. I felt like Tars and Case were delivered well vocally in terms of the voice actors and voice performances, but I just felt like it just needed a little bit more explanation in that. There was a bit of convoluted plot holes, I think, maybe, but like when you're talking about space and time and relativity, you're going to get it anyway. So I really enjoyed the human aspect, of which I, as an audience member, really appreciated. I would give this, if I was to rate this, at crisps, because that's what we do here.
Of course. Hit us up with a crisp rating.
We really built a rock for our own backs there, didn't we? I feel like we're running out of brands of crisps as well at the moment. I would say it is like a solid bag. I've probably mentioned this one before, but it's like I want to say it's a multi-variety pack of hula hoops. You've got really good crisps in there. You've got some fairly decent ones. You've probably got the cheese and onion ones that you don't really want, but you know somebody in your household will eat them. You've got a bit of everything. It won't be for everyone, but you know that you're going to enjoy the good moments, and that is Interstellar.
Job done. I completely agree with your thoughts. I think, some really good bits. Overall, I think it's just a nice film. If I was to watch it again, I'd force myself to see it in one sitting. I think it does make a difference when you watch a film in one sitting compared to break it down. Some of the things don't quite work out, so I like to rewatch it and watch it all in one sitting. Crisp rating, I think this is when you got a group of friends round and you've gone, oh, do you know what I fancy? Could you get me some Pringles? Right, and then they go to the shop. They come back, they knock on a door, and you're like, oh, do you know what I've realised? I didn't specify which flavour of Pringle. And then you're like, oh shit, what's about to kick off here? They open the door, you see the bag, you see the red in the bag, and you go, oh fuck, they've got the ready salted Pringle. It's still a once you pop you can't stop. Yep. It's Christopher Nolan, good cast,
absolutely,
some lovely visuals, but it's not something you would go in the shop and go, I need to buy that. That's it. That's Interstellar.
And there you go, dear listener.
That's our conclusive thoughts. Our thesis.
I think we gave a tomato meter rating either, so I think that this is the perfect opportunity to do so. So, according to Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter is, guess, Forrest.
I have just looked.
Oh, you saw it. Okay, it is 73%, and the audience score is 86. So
I
it's
could have
not...
so said that, and then you would have never known that. I'd have been
I
like,
know,
oh,
you could have.
73?
Why didn't you? It would have been great content, mate.
Unlike this, which is shit.
I think the way that we've reviewed it is exactly the way that the movie is. It's like, yeah, okay, cool, great. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I can appreciate it. Bish bash bosh, you're done. Great. Next.
Fab.
Nolan, and thank you, Danny, from Unqualified Heroes, for that suggestion. Because actually, this is a movie that definitely does deserve and was warranted a review. And actually, I really appreciate doing it because I watched this before I watched Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer is talking about time travel, and it does talk about a lot of sciencey stuff, and it actually helped a little bit. So
It's brilliant. Oppenheimer is fantastic, by the way.
It is very good.
We will properly review that someday, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So we've got to decide next week's film, Matt.
Oh,
And we've had some film suggestions. Now,
have we?
what I'm going to do is I am going to give you... if I give you the names, then we're going to have an issue. How do I do this? Yeah, I'm going to give
We'll
you...
do a roulette. We're going to roulette.
I'm going to give you... We're not going to roulette. We're going to try something different this time. So I'm going to give you a number. I'm going to give you numbers. And you have to select a number. You are going to decide this week. We'll do roulette next week. But you're going to decide this week our fate by picking a number. All right? So you need to pick a number between 1 to 7. Any number between 1 and 7. These films are taken from our Instagram post, so thank you to those that suggested some ideas, and also a couple of people at work who put in a couple of math suggestions. So between 1 to 7, pick a number, Matt. And you will decide next week's film.
I don't like this. I feel like we should phone a friend and ask somebody. Shall I phone a friend? Can I phone a friend?
Phone a friend and pick 1 to 7.
Okay, I'm going to phone because it's Pride at Colchester this Saturday. I'm going to call my beloved drag extraordinaire charcuterie and ask. Okay, let's just see if she'll answer.
This is gone all Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Hello, sweet. Can you do me a favour? Can you pick a number between 1 and 7?
5.
Thank you. You're on the podcast, by the way.
Okay, why?
I just needed a number between 1 and 7.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, I couldn't decide.
Oh, there I was thinking you cared.
I don't care.
About his favourite number between 1 and 7.
Pick a number between 1 and 7.
Oh, I could... Okay, thanks, babe. Bye. I'll call you in a minute.
So that went delightfully well. So Shah picked the number 5.
Yeah.
Now Shah is gonna be particularly impressed by this choice. because it's a fantastic choice. So next week, and we've got to find out where we can watch this.
Oh God!
We are watching our first Bollywood film. We are watching a film called Singham, which Alfie, who's a dear friend, has volunteered for us to watch. So we're watching Singham, a Bollywood movie. Now this is wild. This is going to be... So Shah has made an absolutely fantastic choice there.
That is incredible. Do follow Charcuterie on Instagram, dear listener. We'll put handles in the description. That is an incredible number to pull out there. I'm so happy it's that, because we were literally saying a couple weeks ago, because we saw those suggestions coming out on Instagram, and we said, wouldn't it be amazing if we actually did a Bollywood one, because we've never seen one before, ever. I've never seen one, and actually
I've never seen a Bollywood film.
This is great. This is exactly what wildcard movies are about. I'm pumped.
I can't wait. So Singham. So I reckon everybody, if you're listening, go and watch Singham. Let me find out how we watch this, just so I can tell everybody. This is where I find out you can't actually watch it. Singham. I think you can watch it. Singham. Here you go. Oh. Okay. Oh. No, that's Singham Returns. We will find it. Find a way. I think I found it. Oh, I found it.
You found it.
Billy. What a website. Okay, so yeah, I found a method. I've found a way to watch it. So come on, watch Singham with us. And get ready for next week's wildcard episode.
Wow.
Some of the action sequences. So Alfie's told me that some of the action sequences in this are unparalleled. And I don't know which way to take that, but I'm excited.
I can't wait. That's amazing. What exciting news.
I can't wait. Right. I'll see you next week for that, Matt.
I'll see you next week. Dear listener, keep listening out for a huge announcement. 2 announcements coming forth very, very soon. But yeah, next week. Singham. Bring it. Let's go. Wild card.
We're going Bollywood.
Yes.